of them knew the truth. As she walked down the street, she noticed what looked like a small bookstore tucked away in the alley. Thinking she might take a quick look before heading home, she turned in the narrow passage and stepped inside. Only then did she realize that it wasn't a bookstore at all. There were books scattered throughout the shop, but they were outnumbered by all kinds of vintage objects. It was, in fact, a second-hand store. At first, they felt a little disappointed that it wasn't a bookstore. But the deeper she wandered into the shop, the more amazed she became. There were so many things she had never seen before. A machine that resembled an old a monocle with a tiny crack along its edge, and even wooden box that had long since lost its key. Just as Faye was becoming overwhelmed by the countless treasure around her, an elderly man slowly emerged from the back of the shop. Faye greeted him politely. The old man looked at her and smiled. What an unusual child, he murmured. Then he warmly invited her to take her time browsing. Faye soon found herself standing before a very old notebook. She picked it up carefully. It wasn't particularly heavy. Its cover was beautifully designed, adorned with what looked like the illustration of secret garden. Quickly, she opened to the first page. In elegant handwriting greeted her. Dear Jane, today is your 8th birthday. I finally gave you a gift each line slowly. The words were so vivid and heartfelt that it felt as though she could hear the author's voice speaking to her directly. Driven by curiosity, she hesitated for a moment. Then she slipped off the glove from her hand. Carefully, she placed her fingertips upon the page. At that instant, everything changed. The world around her dissolved. She found herself standing inside an old-fashioned mansion filled with elegant decorations. Ahead of her stood a grand dining table already covered with delicious dishes. I could almost smell the food. Then suddenly, a little girl came skipping into the room. She ran straight towards Faye. It looked as though she would crash into Faye. Yet Faye neither moved nor flinched. Little girl passed directly through her as though they were made of air. No one could see her. It was as if she didn't exist. Faye appeared to be an ordinary girl, but there was something she had never told anyone. She possessed the ability to see the past of the things she touched. Every object began its own story from the moment it was created. As long as her bare left hand rested upon it, Faye could witness its memory. She loved this ability because she believed everything carried a story of its own, and every page of this novel had one. Soon after, a graceful woman entered the room and hurried after the little girl before wrapping her in a warm embrace. Mom, it's my birthday today. Do I get a present? Of course you do, sweetheart. Right here. The woman handed her a delicate pink gift box with a for me forever. The innocence in her eyes overflowed with hope. Of course, her mother replied softly. No matter how old you become, I'll make you beautiful new dresses for your birthdays. Watching you grow up is one of the happiest days in my life. Mom, why are you so good in making clothes? The little girl asked. The woman smiled because doing something you love and seeing that it brings joy to others is a kind of happiness. She gently touched her daughter's nose. So, when you grow up, sweetheart, make sure you do the things that make your heart happy too. At the moment, Faye froze. It felt as though these words had been spoken directly to her. Ever since her mother had left this world, she had slowly lost sight of herself. Then another memory surfaced. As long as you are doing what makes you happy, Mom will be happy too, Faye. Her own mother had once said those exact words. Faye lifted her hand from the notebook. Just like the ending of a film, everything vanished in an instant. She was brought back into reality. She was still standing inside the second shop, but nearly half an hour had passed. Then she noticed something strange. Her cheeks were wet. Instinctively, she touched them. Only then did she realize she had been crying. house is destined new owner finally arrived. The end.